The sky over Eastern Europe is once again filled with tension, urgency, and the unmistakable feeling that something far bigger is unfolding behind the scenes. Imagine waking up to the news that missiles capable of reaching deep inside Russia in just 7 minutes could soon be stationed closer than ever before. 7 minutes. That is barely enough time to warn city officials, barely enough time for civil defense systems to activate, and barely enough time for leadership to decide how to respond. This is the kind of development that reshapes military strategies, and it is exactly what Moscow claims is happening right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Conflict Front Stories channel. Please subscribe and like my videos because today we're breaking down a story that has the world on edge and has set off another wave of accusations between Washington and Moscow. This report raises the stakes in a way we haven't seen in years, and we need to understand what it really means. Exterior scenes begin with quiet footage of tension building across Europe, distant airbases, missile transport trucks moving under the cover of night, radar dishes rotating against cloudy skies. In this setting, the claim from Moscow that the United States could soon position missiles near Russia capable of striking in 7 minutes sounds like a flashback to the Cold War. But this isn't the 1960s, and the weapons today are far more precise, faster, and destructive. The Russian Ministry of Defense has repeatedly warned that the deployment of advanced U.S. missile systems near its borders crosses what it considers red lines. These warnings come as NATO continues its military presence along the alliance's eastern flank, raising fears in the Kremlin that the balance of power is slipping. Russia argues that the U.S. is not simply placing defensive systems, but could also be preparing offensive capabilities that shorten reaction time and create what Moscow calls a strategic imbalance. As we shift into the interior analysis, the situation becomes more complex. Russia believes these U.S. missiles, which some experts say could include certain hypersonic capable platforms, are designed not just for deterrence but for rapid strike scenarios. The short interior understanding here is that Moscow views this as a threat to its leadership, its command and control centers, and its national security architecture. Even more concerning is the possibility that Russia may respond by placing its own high-speed missiles near Europe or accelerating its military cooperation with other countries that challenge U.S. influence. This tit-for-tat escalation has the potential to destabilize not just the region but global security frameworks. Back in the exterior narrative, we see Russia's political figures addressing their citizens with increasingly direct language. They emphasize that the U.S. presence near Russia is no longer just symbolic, but operationally threatening. Russian analysts claim that American missiles could be launched from bases in Europe, passing through airspace in just minutes before striking their targets. In such a scenario, Russia argues that it may not have enough time to confirm whether the attack is conventional or nuclear, which raises fears of miscalculation. Moscow has also begun reinforcing its western military districts with additional air defense units, missile brigades, and surveillance capabilities meant to detect threats earlier. This is not simply posturing. Russia is preparing for the possibility that its strategic depth is shrinking. Interior analysis adds another short layer of context. These U.S. systems are part of a broader effort to counter Russia's own missile programs, especially the hypersonic weapons unveiled by President Vladimir Putin in recent years. American officials insist that their deployments are defensive and meant to protect NATO allies from Russian aggression, particularly after the events in Ukraine and the increasing militarization of Eastern Europe. The U.S. argues that Russia's actions over the past decade have forced NATO to strengthen its posture, not the other way around. Each side claims the other started the escalation, creating a spiral of accusations and military adjustments. Returning to exterior scenes, experts around the world are warning that the reintroduction of intermediate Range missiles into Europe could push the continent back into a high-risk environment reminiscent of the 1980s. The collapse of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF Treaty, a few years ago opened the door for both the U.S. and Russia to develop and deploy missiles that were previously banned. These missiles can strike fast, travel long distances, and carry either conventional or nuclear warheads. The mere presence of such systems on either side of the European border increases tensions dramatically. Both sides are now racing to fill a gap that had been legally restricted for decades. Inside this analysis, the interior point is simple and short. Without the INF Treaty, there are no strict limits preventing either nation from placing faster, shorter, warning missiles in sensitive areas. This means that Europe, once protected by treaty-based stability, is now vulnerable to rapid-fire crises. Diplomatic discussions have been attempted, but neither side is willing to roll back its security posture without major concessions from the other, and those concessions are nowhere in sight. Exterior developments continue as Russian state media releases maps showing potential missile trajectories from European launch points toward Moscow and other key regions. These visuals are meant to emphasize the danger and justify Russia's military responses. Meanwhile, Washington continues to deny that it plans to station offensive missiles in areas that directly threaten Russian territory. American officials say these accusations are exaggerations used by Moscow to justify its own buildup. Yet independent analysts note that the U.S. is indeed testing and preparing new missile systems, and several NATO countries have expressed interest in hosting them. The combination of uncertainty, secrecy, and geopolitical rivalry creates a fertile environment for mistrust. Interior analysis now highlights how this issue affects everyday people living near these borders. Residents of Eastern Europe worry that their cities could become targets if tensions escalate. Russian citizens are also hearing more warnings from their government about potential threats, and military drills have become more frequent. The fear is not simply about missiles themselves, but the possibility of misunderstandings. A false alarm, unexpected radar signal, or misinterpreted launch could cause catastrophic decisions. These short interior reflections remind us that strategic weapons always come with human consequences. Back in the exterior narrative, we see the broader geopolitical landscape shifting. China, Iran, and North Korea watch these developments closely, recognizing that U.S.-Russia tensions affect global alliances. Any instability in Europe could influence conflicts in the Middle East, the Pacific, or other regions where rival powers are active. Russia has also hinted that if the U.S. continues its missile expansion near Russian borders, Moscow could respond by strengthening military cooperation with countries that oppose American influence. This could include offering advanced missiles or technology transfers, creating new hotspots of tension around the world. These steps might not be immediate, but the rhetoric suggests that Russia is considering every available option. Interior understanding remains short but critical. As long as both sides view each other as strategic threats, each move will provoke a counter-move. This cycle is difficult to break. Neither Russia nor the U.S. wants to appear weak, and both rely heavily on missile capability as a core part of their national defense. Without serious diplomacy, stability becomes harder to maintain. The exterior review of events continues with NATO officials emphasizing their commitment to protecting member states. They argue that deterrence is the only way to prevent aggression. Russia counters by stating that NATO expansion and U.S. military presence near Russia's borders are precisely what provoke instability. The mutual distrust has created a situation where both sides believe they are acting defensively, yet the other side sees these actions as offensive. Interior analysis here is short. When two nuclear powers interpret defensive actions as threats, the margin for error becomes dangerously small. Across Europe, Governments are debating how close they should allow U.S. missile infrastructure to be placed on their soil. Some nations support stronger defense partnerships with Washington, while others fear becoming targets if a crisis emerges. Public opinion is divided. Some people believe a U.S. military presence is essential for safety, while others worry it turns their country into a frontline zone in a potential conflict with Russia. These debates are not just political, they shape how Europe positions itself in the years ahead. Interior commentary again is concise. Europe must navigate between reassurance and risk, and its decisions will influence global stability. In the exterior storyline, Russia continues to build new radar systems designed to detect incoming missiles earlier and deploy new S-500 and S-550 air defense systems around key cities. These systems are meant to counter advanced missiles, but no defense is perfect, especially when dealing with weapons capable of traveling thousands of kilometers at incredible speeds. Russia argues that the U.S. is attempting to box it in, limiting its strategic freedom and pushing it to take stronger defensive positions. Washington rejects this narrative, insisting that it's acting in response to Russia's own military actions. Interior insight remains short. Both countries want dominance in early warning and rapid strike capabilities, and neither is willing to fall behind. The exterior escalation continues as Russian military aircraft patrol border areas more frequently, and NATO jets scramble in response. Each close encounter creates the risk of an accidental incident. Meanwhile, discussions within the U.S. Congress push for more funding for advanced missile programs, citing Russian and Chinese developments. This competition fuels the rapid modernization of arsenals on all sides. Interior analysis is short once more. The arms race is here again, and both sides believe they must stay ahead to stay safe. As we move through the final exterior scenes, the story circles back to the central claim. U.S. missiles capable of reaching Russia in 7 minutes represent more than just a military fact. They symbolize the broader uncertainty shaping global politics today. Whether these missiles are actually deployed or remain in planning phases, the fear they create influences national strategies, diplomatic negotiations, and public awareness. Russia's warnings are part of a larger message to the world. Any perceived threat near its borders will be treated as a major escalation. The United States, meanwhile, signals that it will not step back from commitments to its allies, even if that brings it closer to confrontation with Moscow. Interior reflection closes simply and briefly. The world is entering a more dangerous phase where speed, technology, and misunderstanding can redefine security faster than diplomacy can keep up. The exterior conclusion reflects the tension spreading through global discussions. Experts insist that both nations must re-engage in arms control, reduce risks, and recreate channels for emergency communication. Without these safeguards, any crisis can spiral into something neither side intended. Governments may believe they are managing their strategies, but history shows that rapid reaction weapons increase the chance of miscalculations. The path forward depends on whether dialogue can replace suspicion. As we end this detailed review, the message is clear. Claims of U.S. missiles capable of reaching Russia in 7 minutes are more than just headlines. They are reminders of how fragile peace can be in an era of high-speed weapons and geopolitical rivalries. The world is watching closely because the decisions made now will shape the security landscape for years to come. Thank you for watching Conflict Front Stories. Please subscribe and like the video if you want more deep, clear analyses of major global developments.